It's Cageside with John Morgan.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Cageside with John Morgan. I'm your host, Eric McMahon. We are on a 2-week hiatus. Not my fault this time. We did have a holiday weekend that took us out one day, and then John was just so busy with UFC stuff that he couldn't make time for us in this podcast. But we'll give him a pass. There's a lot to catch up on. We had UFC Noche this past weekend. We had UFC Paris the weekend before that. And there is a new, completely undisputed king in the boxing world in Bud Crawford. John Morgan was there, and we want to hear all about it. So let's go ahead and bring him in. His name was on the marquee. You can follow him on X, John Morgan _MMA. What up, John?
I mean, there's really so much to talk about. There's not enough time to throw me under the bus, but you still worked it in there a little bit. But yes, I will take full responsibility. There was so much going on last week. It was a. You know, I told you when I reached out to you, I was bummed out because I hate to miss any show that we're going to do together because I just love getting together and talking about the sport. But it was so busy going on. A lot of very productive meetings with the UFC, with the CFFC team as well. So a lot of good things ended in bittersweet fashion. Obviously, was pulling for our man Anthony Garasio at Dana White's Contender Series, and man, you know, heavyweight MMA, man, it can be over in an instant. It was a bittersweet,
unforgiving sport, man.
It is, man. And we were talking to him afterwards. It's, man, especially when it's people it truly is the highest of highs and lowest of lows, man. And one little tiny mistake can do everything. So it's a bittersweet ending to a very, very good, productive week. But I'm glad that we got all that behind. I'm glad to be back talking with you. It feels like it's been forever, and there is just absolutely so much to talk about, including, as you said, we don't normally talk about boxing that much, but this was a pretty special boxing event here at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas this past weekend.
Tell me about, I want to get in. Well, first off, I did not watch it because it's midnight and they hadn't even made the walk yet. And I'm like, This is first off, this is absolutely ridiculous. Boxing, get your stuff together. Like, it's crazy.
It really is. You know, obviously here on the Pacific time zone in Las Vegas, it wasn't bad, but you realize the majority of the United States population lives on the East Coast, and obviously, you know, a handful like yourself in the Central as well, big portion. So it's later in the night. And I know that Dana White in the lead up to all this stuff. Now, important to remember, Dana White was not in complete control of this one. He was helping promote it, but this was a Riyadh season event, Turkey Al-Sheikh. So, but Dana had said leading in, like, he hated the pacing of these events now, and it's something he wanted to fix. I think a lot of people thought this would be one of those, and it didn't, right? It still was that dragged out pace. So I agree with you. Even being in the building, it wasn't as late as it was on the East Coast, but it did just feel like a long night, and there was a lot of downtime in between.
What was the atmosphere like that in Allegiant Stadium?
Unbelievable. Obviously, first time for combat sports in Allegiant Stadium. I mean, WWE had been there with WrestleMania. I didn't get a chance to attend that. This is the first time I had been at, combat sports. It set the record for attendance there, obviously, because you have all the floor seating in addition to the seating you normally have for the NFL. But the atmosphere was unbelievable, man. The Canelo fans, for sure, showed out. I mean, he was by far the fan favorite. The production was amazing. It was just a really big
deal. The light shows that they had going on were unreal.
Really amazing, man. The sound of the music that they were playing, the light shows, as you said, you had all the lighting stuff, you had the seats, you had it. So, I mean, it felt big. And I tweeted it during it. One thing I love about the UFC and mixed martial arts, but especially the UFC, is that, like, fight one feels big. Like, fight one at a boxing event just feels like nothing. I mean, most people aren't even there. Even, look, some of the MMA media and I were looking around, and, like, even during the main card, and this is typical with boxing, especially in Las Vegas, even during the main card, the seats aren't full. Like, they only show up for the main event, maybe the co-main event as well. But in the early going, like, the place is empty, right? And you don't see that at a UFC event. Like, the UFC, that first fight of the night, they treat it, I won't say equal to the main event, but very similarly, right? You still get the nice video packages. You get the nice walkout. Everything. You don't get that in boxing. So I like that better about MMA, that every fight feels bigger. But I'm telling you what, man, and this is, as a lifelong MMA fan, spent, 20 years in the sport. I mean, this is my profession. You cut me open and I bleed MMA, man. I love the sport. Boy, there is something a little extra special about a big-time boxing main event, right? It just has a little bit more level to it where it's like, whoo, this is definitely something special. So we had that going in. And, the card overall wasn't the most entertaining card of all time. You had some kind of snoozers in there. I was excited to see Callum Walsh. He didn't necessarily put on the best performance of his career, even though he did get it done. But Terence Crawford, man, that dude can box, man. I kind of wanted to see him win going in. I just think that undefeated record and, stealing the shine for Canelo would be a good storyline. But I was like, man, I don't know. You're going up a couple weight classes. This is Canelo. Like, I don't know. And, man, he just went out there and looked phenomenal from the start. So it was a really cool experience, really cool event. I'm happy to go back to my MMA world.
How old is Bud?
He's actually older than Canelo, I believe. So he's not young. Yeah, he's not young.
He's like 36 or something.
Yeah.
He's getting up there in age. Well, relatively
37
speaking.
actually. Yeah, 37. And it looks like his birthday September 28th, so turning 38. And there was even some discussion about like, is this his last fight? Is there anything else to do?
Mm-hmm. The main talking point is I was having this conversation with a boxing coach at one of my gyms, and he's like, man, Bud, he's gonna get it done. He's gonna get it done. I said, I don't disagree with you. Now, this is talking from a guy who I don't follow boxing as closely. Right. So I'm a casual at best. And so I said, here's the thing. A 37-year-old guy coming up in weight for the first time at that weight where Canelo had been at that weight for 3 consecutive defenses. Yep. I just said, one is the power, is that power going to translate up? So Canelo's going to clearly have the power advantage. And at 37, is that speed still going to be there? And the answer was yes and yes.
Yeah. No, you're right. And it's funny. Anytime I talk about boxing, the first thing I like to do is preface it by saying, look, I'm not an expert. You know what I'm doing every Saturday night. You know what I mean? So I'm catching highlights. I'm a casual fan. Like I said, when there's an opportunity to cover a big event like this and it's in town, I'm going to take it. But I'll never try to profess myself as an expert. But I had the same thoughts. I like the idea of seeing Bud Crawford move up and, establish himself as they laid out as one of the all-time greats. I mean, now you're talking about, is he the best of this generation, the best of this era? You like the ability to see things like that. But I just thought, man, I think this is going to be a little bit too much for him. And it was not. This man went in there and shined. And, he's not the biggest talker ever. He's not, at the press conferences and everything leading in. It's, you don't get long quotes from him. You don't get boisterous stuff. He's just pretty humble and talk. But I did love his quote in the post fight where somebody asked him, like, when did you know, like, I'm beating Canelo Alvarez? And he's like, when he signed the contract. And I'm like, that is good. I'm like, that's really good, man. So, hey, look, I think, for a lot of people, maybe A Star Was Born. Again, it wasn't the greatest night. I mean, I love the ability that's being on Netflix. I mean, this is kind of what we talk about with the Paramount Plus deal, right? Where, like, would you have, I know you didn't end up making it because of the time zone, but would you have paid $80 to tune in for it? No, right? You're like, I'm a casual. But if it's on Netflix and you already got it anyway, yeah, I'm going to throw it on. And I think it shows the power of when you don't have to pay that extra money. And so I'm hoping, this is kind of obviously a different level. I mean, this was 2 superstars, but a kind of a peek at what it'll be like for the UFC next year as well, when casual fans will just tune in, because now that I don't have to pay for that $75 pay-per-view anymore, yeah, I'll throw it on and in the background, and maybe I'll find something I like.
Yeah. I mean, and hopefully this is another, like, I really truly believe, like, Jake Paul gave this resurgence to boxing. Yes. And then it seems like it's dipped again a little bit. And hopefully this is that resurgence again, that we get a lot of new fans involved. So hopefully that's the case, but we're not here to talk about boxing.
That's
all right. We're here to talk about UFC now. Let's just start this past weekend. UFC Noche, San Antonio, Texas. Diego Lopez looked spectacular against John Silva. And I'm telling you, in the 8.5 minutes that this fight went on, it was one of the more 8.5 minutes, the best 8.5 minutes you could watch in an MMA fight. If you want to take that person off the street and say, what could MMA be? This is why you need to be a fan. You need to show them this 8.5 minutes, because it was just, spectacular from the start, from Diego Silva getting mount early and raining down. Utilizing one of the first person to really utilize 12-6 elbows in a mounted position and just battering Silva, to him, withstanding it. And then eventually, after a long time, able to get out. Then into the second round, he looks like he's fresh as a daisy. He's having fun out there. He is starting to light up Diego Lopez. He's starting to light him up. He's chasing him down. But Lopez says, I'm bringing you in. And then that spinning back elbow, golly.
Amazing. It was really fun. It was cool because everybody at the boxing event, at least in the press box, we all had the UFC on as well, right? And sometimes when you're at, an event and there's another event going on simultaneously, you're a little nervous about, what are they going to think? What is the company going to think if they see you not fully dialed into this event? But in this situation, we could do it because it was the UFC, right? So nobody cared. And we were all blown away. And I'm telling you, I love what you said there because it's funny. I had that exact same thought. And maybe it was because it was while boxing was going on and I was at a boxing event watching this. But I had that same thought of like, this is what I like. Granted, the competitors involved are stars, right? I mean, they really are. But it doesn't matter who they were. If it was any two people, like, that's a fight. That's why we are MMA fans, because two people go out there and maybe throw a little bit caution to the wind. Maybe not necessarily the most strategic game plan at all times, but you're just like, this is a damn fight right here. And I mean, absolutely delivered on the entertainment value. And man, I just fight of the year candidate, knockout of the year candidate. I mean, just what more could you ask for in a main event and a very cool Noche UFC on a very cool Saturday for the UFC?
Does this hurt? I mean, it hurts the meteoric rise of Silva. It does hurt that.
Yes.
But does it hurt him in this regard, in a regard of like, where do we think this guy can go? And I look at it from a perspective of Diego Lopez is at the top of the food chain right now, ranked number 2 in the world, right?
Yep.
He's on the precipice, maybe one more win away from getting a title shot, from getting another title shot, shall I say. And then Silva coming in, I believe he was ranked number 11 coming in. And I look at this as in no way does this really hurt him. He's still, in my opinion, getting another top 10 opponent in his next fight. And this is a valuable learning lesson. We'll go over the fighting nerds in here in a second. But for him in particular, this is a valuable learning lesson of like, listen, this complete reckless abandon in the way you fight, even though you have all the skills to handle it, is that maybe we need to temper that just a bit and we can be a world champion. That's what I took out of Silva.
I completely agree. I feel like a lot of people, and I know you're going to talk about the fighting nerds in a bit, and maybe that's why it's kind of tempered the enthusiasm, or maybe that's kind of shaded what people's opinion are, because I feel like a lot of people are walking away from this fight being like, see, that Silva guy is not what we thought he was, and they're kind of jumping off the bandwagon. And I didn't take that at all, because for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think you laid it out very well. We still saw some very good things out of him. It's not like he went in there and he was just totally outgunned and had no business being in there. Look, there's little things that you can tweak and turn, and we saw some positives. So I believe the trajectory in the future is still there. But also from the perspective of, that's just a dude you want to watch fight. Right. You know what I mean? And there's not many people like that. Is such a good place to get to in your career, right? I know everybody's aiming for the top and everybody's aiming to be champion, and you should, because that's where the best money is when you can get those championship contracts. But man, when you reach that level, I think of guys like the Diaz brothers, maybe a Carlos Condit, maybe even a Michael Bisping later in his career. There's names like this where it's like, I don't need to know who the opponent is.
In the heyday of Tony Ferguson.
I'm telling you, when you have those guys that like, I don't even need to hear who you're fighting. Cowboy Cerrone was one of those guys for me. It's just like, I just need, if I know you're fighting, I'm tuning in. And that's what I think Hendo is. For me. 100%, right? I mean, so that's a good place to be, right? And look, he's entertaining. He's got, he's barking and he's wild and he's crazy. And he makes press conferences fun. I mean, I'm telling you, we talked about it before, but I saw him at the UFC Expo this past summer, and the crowd, everywhere he would walk, they'd just be barking at him. You know what I mean? Because they love seeing this guy. Like, he's fun, he's entertaining. So from that perspective, I don't think we're looking at a guy that we say, well, now we know where the ceiling is, and it's not championship caliber. I think he still can be championship caliber, but beyond that, he's just entertainment and a star, and therefore, I think he's still got a great career ahead of him.
I think he is championship material. And I'll say that. I'll say that boldly. I think he's championship material. He goes from relatively unknown, right, to then ninja choking Bryce Mitchell out cold. You choked Bryce Mitchell out cold. To then arguably beating Diego Lopez on the feet but then running into a shot that was clearly set up. I mean, he set that shot up, right? So it wasn't a lucky strike. He set it up. But prior to that, he was walking through Diego Lopez's shots. He closed that gap very fast. I had my buddy Mike over and we were watching it together. And I was like, gosh, the range on Lopez is huge. And then it wasn't, because he just closed that distance immediately. And, I would like to see what round number 1 would have been had he not thrown an ill-advised spinning back kick in the first, right? But that's where I temper all of this and saying, what do we take out of this? We take out of this is that he could probably strike with anybody in the world. Yes. Right. What I take out of this is Diego Lopez's mount is very, very good. Really right. Good. But I also know that Silva can grapple with almost anybody in the world. He ninja choked Bryce Mitchell. Okay. Yeah. So if we temper maybe a lot of the things that makes him ultra popular, but just temper it a bit, he's in a year or two, 3-4 more wins, he is right there in that conversation. And I fully believe it because I want to watch him. Number two, I know that individually the skill sets are there. I know it. I've just given you the grappling, the striking. I don't really know about the wrestling yet, right? But let's say it's there as well. Now how do we blend them together and temper that pure, straightforward aggression and blend them all together? He's championship material, in my opinion.
Completely agree. And by the way, while you mentioned wrestling, boy, how about that Oklahoma State David Taylor wrestling on display for Diego Lopez? He had a couple nice takedowns in there at moments where I think he showed his improvements there. But you're right. Look, with John Silva, you don't want him to abandon it completely, right? Like that aggression and that, a little bit of recklessness is good, but you got to pick your spots, right? I mean, we talked about the margin for error in this sport is so thin that you got to pick your spots. Now, you don't want to take it completely out. I was actually, there was a different fight of the night where it was Cub Swanson. I actually tweeted this quote. I was watching it, and I love this quote from Cub talking about his fighter. Again, not this fight, but he was saying, look, it was in between rounds going to third round. It's like, we're waiting for the perfect spot. The perfect spot will never exist. We got to go. And I love that advice, right? Because sometimes you can get yourself a little hesitant on the outside waiting for that perfect spot. I don't want Silva to get to a point where he's waiting for that perfect spot. I still want to be aggressive. I still want to be that guy, but maybe take a little bit of the recklessness out of it, because that'll work for you on the regional scene, right? That'll work for you on the developmental level. That'll work for you on your way up. But once you get to the elite, the best of the best, you got to be a little, like, as you said, just take a little bit of that out. But the skills are there. The entertainment value is there. I still see a lot of big upside for John Silva. I think it's, and I want you to get into it now, because I do believe that he's a little bit of a victim of everything that's happening with the Fighting Nerds right now. Like, if this was the first setback for the team, I think maybe people would be looking at this a little bit differently. But because it's not the first setback, I think people are maybe piling on a little bit and just grouping everybody together.
Let's blend the two cards together now. I do want to talk about Kelvin Gastelum here in a second, because I think he could be the greatest 190-pound champion in the history of the world.
Just got to get that division in.
but let's talk about the Fighting Nerds, right? So is it a product of they're not there, or is it a product of missteps along the way? I happen to believe that. Sean Strickland says some outlandish, crazy things, and then he says some absolutely brilliant things, right? And what he said about Bahio, I happen to put tons of stock in what he said about a few weeks ago being the backup, weighing in as a backup, cutting all that weight, then 2 weeks later having to do it again and cutting all that weight. What does that do to your body? Like, we didn't see a Bahio that is just like almost Silva-esque, fun to watch, wading in. Just, Amavov picked him apart from the outside. And that is very unlike Bahio, like to just stay at that range and not want to be ultra aggressive. And it lends to, I think Sean Strickland is right. I think that putting your body through 25-pound weight cuts twice in a matter of weeks is absurd. Now, would I probably do it if I was Bahio to get those checks? Yeah, I would. Right.
Yeah.
So let's be honest
part, right?
here. But
that's the hard part, right? Because I want to praise him. You know what I mean? Like, we want people to take chances. We want people to take opportunities. We want people to seize the moment when they get things like that. You're right. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be too hard on him, because in a lot of ways, I applaud him for saying, like, I'm your guy. Like, you know, I'll step up. I'll do what you need. But how can it not impact you negatively? How can it not?
And looking, you know, Bahio looked good later in that fight. Like, it looked like he finally realized there's a level of urgency I need to take him against Imavov now. But he was so complacent early, right? And the only thing the only thing based off of, you know, did he get cracked early? Yeah, he got cracked early a bunch of times, right? In which that stymied him and put him in a different fight, or was it like, I just can't get going. I just can't going. My body is not reacting the way I want it to. I don't know the answer to that, but I put a lot of stock in what Sean Strickland said. A lot of stock.
I do too. And unfortunately for Ohio, like, man, I feel like this was the type of performance that really will impact how people think about him in the division right now. And, you know, we think of him as a younger prospect, but he is 32. So it's not like, you know, he's running out of time, but it's not exactly like he's just got, you know, a decade ahead of him to ease back into the top of the division or whatever. And I think this is going to be one that people are going to question. Now, again, the great thing about MMA is you can go out there and you can have an absolute destruction a few months later, and the entire public opinion will shift and change on you. And you can go back at that point. You know, no excuses right now, but you go out and you destroy somebody in the next one, you can say, guys, if we're being honest, I probably made a mistake last time out. Like, I was trying to seize the moment. I was trying to be great, but I really do think it impacted me. The guy you saw tonight is the guy that I still am, and the guy I'm going to be moving forward. So there's opportunities for him, but this was a big step back and a big step forward for Imavov as well, right? I think, you know, he was kind of always maybe doubted a little bit, or he's just slow to get the respect that everybody else has in the division. I think after a performance like that, you got to give it to him, and he's right there at the top of that division. So, yeah, and just kind of tying that back into Silva, man. I think, again, I do think like kind of all these performances together are kind of all being grouped together with the fighting nerds.
And Bahio, huge jump in level of competition too. So let's be clear. You know what I mean? Yep. This was a massive jump up in competition.
And that to me is where I see it more. I think I've seen a lot of people, and again, I mean, public opinion sways, and everybody likes to have hot takes and whatever. And I've seen a lot of people like, this team got exposed. Like, that's just the reality of competing at the highest level. I don't care what team you are. I don't care who your coach is, what staff you are. It is impossible to be at the top of the sport forever. We've seen it. I mean, Syndicate MMA is having a great run right now. They haven't always been at the top. You know, Extreme Couture maybe necessarily doesn't have all the champions that they have had at one point. But, you know, and I wouldn't say they're on a downturn, but, you know, they've had higher levels before. You know, Jackson Wink has ups and downs. AK, I mean, every team has ups and downs. Again, you just can't dominate the top at this competitive level that is the UFC. So I still think a lot of great athletes. I just take away that, like, okay, they had this amazing rise. They're all at the top. And that we see that, man. Once you get to the top, you see, there is a little bit different level to this. This is the tweaks we have to make. This is the adjustments we have to make. And now you just see how you react and how you deal with it.
But ultra disappointed in Mauricio Ruffy. Very
that's
the one. That's the one that I think that you can look at and say, like, listen, yeah, BSD is a stud. Like, there's no doubting it, right? And that this was going to be his highest level of competition as well. But I don't want to be too, like, I don't want to come down too hard, because I think Mauricio Ruffy has every intangible to be a champion. I predicted it on this show 2 years ago.
You've been very high on him from the start, you know, just the gifts and the tools that he has.
But he folded. You can't look at it like, yeah, he took a body shot and whatnot, but he wasn't even like addressing the choke. Mm-hmm. And that was very disappointing. He didn't even really address it.
I agree. That's the one where it's like, have you just decided, like, I'm ready to be out of here, or are you panicking, or what? Like, when you don't even see somebody, you know, going 2-on-1, trying to peel it away. And I understand, you know, you're building a base or whatever, but you can't build a base when there's someone on your back choking you. Like, your only focus at that point has to be the choking arm, right?
The choke and roll to your back. It'd be better to get out. Like, he just folded.
That's it. That's literally all. That's literally, and he didn't. So that one was a tough to watch. That one you wonder, was it a physical failure, a mental failure, or what? That one was probably the most jarring of them all. I'll be honest with you.
Now, Okay, we're jumping back. Kelvin Gastelum, help me make sense of this.
I can't. And I love Kelvin Gastelum.
Right.
Absolutely love Kelvin Gastelum as a human being, as a fighter. Like I'll never forget meeting Kelvin Gastelum. This was back in the days when we used to go interview all the cast members on The Ultimate Fighter. And I remember speaking to the entire cast, including him, and walking away from the Tough Gym going, that poor kid Kelvin Gastelum's going to get smoked on this show. What do they got him here for? And look what he goes out and does, and the career that he's had, and the fight of the year, and the Hall of Fame. I mean, he is the absolute man. He goes in there and fights every time. He's a great dude just to deal with and to speak with. But the way
discipline issue, like he's just not disciplined.
Look, I mean, I hate to pass on judgment like that, but it has to. What else could it be? What else could it be? I mean, he was always kind of a tweener at welterweight and middleweight, right? And it was just like, welterweight's probably, your best division, but it's kind of difficult for you to get there. But now you're coming in at middleweight and missing by 5 pounds. I mean, that's not close, man. That's not close. So, and I don't think he's going to sit here and make excuses. Like, again, I don't want to be overly hard on the guy because I do love.
He was cutting weight and still missed it by 5.
That's not good, man. It's just not. It's not.
And what's unfortunate is he looked amazing. It was the best I've seen Kelvin Gastelum look in a long time. That's what I'm saying. He could be the 190-pound champion of the world.
Yeah, I mean, if they ever look to add that division in there, he'll be right there. But I mean, I mean, look, again, I hate to be overly hard, but that is job number one, right? That is job number one. Like when you sign the contract,
30%, John, 30%.
Which goes to show you. I mean, the UFC and commissions will only implement fines like that when it's repeat infractions or serious infraction. In this, it's both. You know what I mean? So, props to Dustin Stoltzfus for taking the opportunity. I mean, I'm sure 30% of Kelvin Gastelum's check is pretty sizable. You know what I mean? So that's good to entice. But at the end of the day,
defeat there.
yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, he takes an L, right? And I'm sure the UFC matchmakers, man, knowing McMahon, knowing Sean Shelby, I'm sure, a guy like Stoltzfus, I mean, not that he was on the chopping block anyway, but, you take a fight when your opponent is 5 pounds over. Like, they're going to give you some leniency and understanding of like, hey, man, we appreciate you, keeping this fight together. That shouldn't be, and it'll give you another opportunity. But it's still an L. At the end of the day, it's still an L. You still lost half your paycheck. Now, again, that 30% of Kelvin's paycheck was probably more than his bonus was anyway, because Kelvin's been around for a while. So financially, he probably still made out better than he would if he didn't even won the fight. But that at the end of the day, this game is about wins and losses, and you got to get those wins to advance forward in your career.
And what's disappointing in the old thing is the overall fight was spectacular. It was a great fight, but it had this cloud over it the whole time. It's like, is this win ultimately legitimate for Kelvin Gastelum? Which both fighters looked great. I was thoroughly entertained by that whole contest.
Absolutely. It was a great fight. It was very, very fun. But anytime you have a significant weight limit like that, it's an asterisk next to it, right? It just is. I mean, it's not us picking on him. It just is. You don't move forward in the division when you miss that bad. A half pound, a pound. All right, we'll look the other way. 5 is significant, man. 5 is significant. Yeah, like, okay. It's significant, man. And again, Kelvin's not going to make excuses. Like, I've known Kelvin for a long time. He's not going to make excuses. He's not going to say it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. And it's unfortunate because he's a guy that, I mean, again, you talk about guys that if they're on a card, I'm getting a fight. You know what I mean? That's Kelvin Gastelum. I'm getting a fight. I don't know if he's going to win or lose. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I know
he's going to stand in the pocket and fight you.
Yep, he is going to fight you. So, unfortunate. That was disappointing to see. Unfortunately, still a good fight though.
Yeah. Hey, it was worth my time at least.
Hell yeah. It was. So, it was. And by the way, I love this tradition of Noche UFC, man. I really do. I think it's cool. I will say, as I was watching it, they set the bar so high with the Sphere last year. You know what I mean? It's like you come back and it's still cool. Like, you're in Texas, you got the custom graphics package, you got the ring girls are dressed, and it's cool. And you're paying homage to the Mexican fighting culture, and it's cool. On the Mexican Independence Day weekend. So I love that the UFC does Noche UFC, and I hope the tradition continues. but it was so hard because of how big this. I mean, the Spear is one of the biggest, sporting events ever. So nothing can live up to it. But I was a little bit like, damn.
I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because last year it was a pay-per-view.
Right.
The couple previous years it wasn't a pay-per-view, but it was a really, really stacked card.
Right.
This year it was on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, it was more of just a fight night, right? Like it was
a fight night, and it wasn't a stacked card. Really good fights, very entertaining. And they back to back it with Bud and Canelo. Like,
I know.
I see what maybe they're trying to do. Let's have them turn off here and turn on here. But from that standpoint, I guess I had just always looked at Noche UFC as being more elevated of a card than it was this year.
Well, and you're right about that. And it was funny because I was thinking about that as well. In years past, remember, it was almost like they were competing with Canelo, right? It was like, all right, well, Canelo wants T-Mobile Arena. No, we're getting T-Mobile Arena. And oh, by the way, we're going to put on a show that, like, it was almost like we got to be as high as we can because we got to gain the attention. Now they're not competing. They're simultaneously promoting, you know what I mean? So did that lead to why the card was put the way it is of like, hey, we don't want to step on our own toes here when we don't want to go against each other. You know what I mean? Because there's no competition. Now it's just, let's get both of these. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to, insult it too much, but it did feel like a step down. Now, again, anything is going to feel like a step down after you've been at the Sphere, and that show.
But just on ESPN Plus, and not even, it was a Saturday college football night. Before it wasn't on Plus, it was on ESPN. Now it's only on ESPN Plus, which I have it. Great. I'm going to tune in and watch it, just like I watch the Apex cards. I watch everything. It just was it is what it is, right?
It just felt and I think you're right. And you talk about the card quality as well. And I was talking more about like the production elements and the way it felt. But and when you lay it out like that, the card quality and where it was broadcasted, well, it was a step down. Again, anything's going to be a step down for the Sphere, but it did feel a little less special this time around. So hopefully that changes. We'll see what the plan is moving forward and how this thing all works. And again, don't forget, I'll say it one more time, that was not a TKO boxing event. TKO boxing was involved in it. That was a Riyadh season event. So TKO did not have complete control over everything and how it was promoted and how it was.
Well, they did the timing. They had the timing aspect of it. Golly.
they got to fix the pacing on those shows, man.
I was like, somebody's like, I'm like, when is this going to start? And I looked on Twitter and they're like, hey, they're starting to wrap Canelo's hands. Looks like we're this. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm done with this now. Like,
well, and it's hard too, because, again, we're casual consumers of boxing. You forget, a 10-round fight, a 12-round fight, like that's, a 45, 50-minute chunk of time in the fight itself, right? So unless you get an early finish, an early knockout, like that's a lot of time. So if you've got 45, 50 minutes for one fight, and then you've got 10, 15, 20 minutes of filler in between, like, I mean, it just really makes the night long.
I mean, I like Max Kellerman and all, but I was sick of him after a while.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't think, and I like Kellerman as well. His knowledge is there. I didn't think Kellerman in essentially the Joe Rogan role all week I didn't think he was really successful at it, man. And
I just meant he was so overload that night with the fillers. It was just like, I'm done. It's
a lot. It was a lot. Good for John Anik though, right? I mean, obviously John Anik started in boxing, and so to get the nod, I'm sure, was very, very special for him to, obviously he's built an incredible career as a mixed martial arts commentator, but he started in boxing, so to kind of get that call for a fight of that magnitude, I'm sure that meant a lot to him, and obviously he did a great job. He's the consummate professional, so he did an amazing job. So, look, it was cool. I was glad they had the event. I'm anxious to see what next year holds and the start of TKO boxing and in full and how it goes. It's great for boxing to be healthy, man. It is like
boxing could be spectacular. Put Dana White in charge of it all.
Let him handle it all.
Enough of this code, this, that, and the other. UFC boxing. Put Dana in control of the pacing of the matchups. Bring it under a singular umbrella, like we had been wanting. And bringing it under this umbrella is what got us this fight. Right. In the amount, 100%. But if we put it all under to a degree, like everybody says, like the four belt era, right? The 4-belt era is what eliminates great fights.
Yep. I agree.
And And so and not only just that, Dana White, we know, is going to put on the best fights possible for us, the consumers, or at least the most, entertaining to a degree, whether they're the best or not. But also, just from a fan standpoint, I could watch a UFC in 2.5 hours. I got 1.5 fights in 2.5 hours of boxing. Like, I just couldn't take it. Let Dana take control. Whether you like Dana or hate him, you can't argue with the product that is out there from an entertainment value is far superior to pretty much anything else out there.
100%. That and I've always stood by that. Like, I get there are certain people that do not like Dana White as a person. They do not like some of the business practices and fighter pay, and I get all that, man. All those are perfectly valid arguments to have. But as far as just the production of the product itself and the live broadcast and the in-house experience, there's nothing like a UFC. They do it better than anybody else in combat sports. And if you've attended one live, you know it, and you've been there, and the way they do it, and you know the pay-per-views, you know how great they are. They do it right, man. So there's no argument there. So I'm anxious to see what they do next year. I really am. Again, my Saturday nights are going to be mixed martial arts, but I'd love to see boxing do good. There's nothing wrong with seeing boxing do good, man.
I'm a fan of fighting.
That's it. Combat sports, man. Fighting. Like, it's that whole rising tide, man. You want to watch some grappling. You want to watch some boxing. You want to watch some MMA, whatever. All aspects of it, man. Healthy aspects of all, brands of combat sports are good things. So I want to see boxing do good.
So one little last thing I got to talk about on this pacing, and then we'll move on to looking ahead, is when it's really, really late going into from the co-main to the main event on a UFC pay-per-view, right? Central time. Now we're approaching that 11:30-ish time, right? And then the co-main event went, like, let's say 5 rounds. And then now I know that we have, 2 promo packages for upcoming events, then the promo package leading into the fight, which maybe takes 10 minutes. Right. And I'm like, I got 10 more minutes before the main event starts. It's getting so late. I won't ever complain about 10 minutes now.
No. Now you know how blessed you've been. Like, we've only got 10 minutes. That's great. I will say I am anxious to see next year because there's always been talks about moving the start times of UFC events, right? And I know from interviews that I've seen or had, and also just talking to people behind the scenes, the UFC felt very secure about, listen, the fan and the consumer just knows 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday night, that's when UFC pay-per-view events are happening. And if we move that time, we know it will have a negative impact.
1 hour.
Yeah, it'll change everything, right? But now there's no more pay-per-views. So does Paramount care about that? You know what I mean? I would absolutely love for it to be almost like college football. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it starts. I mean, look, a UFC event, if you're there from the first prelim on, is a 6.5 hour event. You know what I mean? Now, if you're just there for the main card, you're talking about 3 hours, which is more like an NFL football game or a college football game. I would love to see, like, noon or 3 p.m. start times or something like that, and it not have to be all night on a Saturday night, every Saturday night. I mean, we love.
I think something about primetime Saturday night is special.
Yep.
But 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock isn't primetime.
Right. I think that's too late. I mean, would a main card that maybe starts 5 p.m. here in Vegas, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, would that be bad? I mean, that's prime.
No, that'd be spectacular.
Right? 7 p.m. for you. You can get the UFC pay-per-view in, maybe watch the 10 o'clock news and grab some sleep. You know what I mean? Like, come on, let's go. Like,
my wife's yelling, get out of bed. We got to go to church on Sunday mornings after a pay-per-view.
Hey, East Coast is tough. I lived in the East Coast time zone for a while. And, this was back when I was working in the restaurant business. So I'd put in a full day and then come home. And, I got to the point where I just have to watch it the next day. But trying to stay off that was before social media was, everywhere. I'd have to try to stay off my phone and just hope nobody texted me. You know what I mean? But that's kind of challenging now to keep it till the next day and stay away from the results. And that's the thing. It's almost impossible. But, dude, I mean, who wouldn't mind moving up the start time a little bit? So I'm anxious to see.
Well, look, UFC Noche was a main card, 5 p.m.
Yes. I love that. I'm telling you. And, I mean, look, the UFC always says the great part about us is whatever our partner wants, we can deliver. If they want less fights, we'll do less fights. If they want more fights, we'll do more fights. Like, whatever our partner wants, we're flexible. We're malleable in that way. We can deliver.
More fights, earlier start time.
Right? Let's go. Every week, let's do fights every week, but let's do it a little bit earlier today. I would love to see that. So we'll see. We'll see how the landscape changes. Obviously, they're not really talking about it much. There's still time to formulate all that, but I'm anxious to see the other one too. And I was actually talking about it with, and this is maybe a little too inside baseball or whatever, but I am actually anxious to see if the December break sticks around, right? Because right now, the UFC kind of takes a month off, but that was an ESPN thing. But I thought it was great for A, all the UFC employees, B, media and that sort of thing. Because, before the ESPN era, there were a lot of days where I was down on the strip doing like a media day the day after Christmas or doing a weigh-in on New Year's Eve or whatever it may be, because there were big events, big year-end events around those times. When ESPN came in, they said, look, man, we have so much going on around that time with bowl season, with playoffs, with all this. We don't need that content. So, in fact, why don't you guys take, from like mid-December to mid-January off because we've got so much going on. And I thought that worked out great because there is no off season in UFC, right? So for the staff, for the media, whatever, we all got all those holidays back. So I'm anxious to see what Paramount does with that and if they want content around that time or if they're fine with that or not.
I hope so.
I do too. I want to keep it.
I hope they bring back cards around that time. I loved it. Yeah. So anyways, with that being said, I want to look ahead. We don't got much time, so we'll kind of fly through this, and we've got another week to do some breakdown. But I'm ultra intrigued looking ahead to Perth, Australia, and UFC Fight Night 260, Carlos Ulberg and Dominick Reyes. These might not be names that are top of the list yet. Reyes was. And then took not a step back, not 3 steps back, took 10 steps back. But I don't know if you recall, this was about maybe a year ago when he came off his first win. I said he looked great. He looked vintage. He came off a long layoff, got healthy, had knee surgeries, healed his head, and he has looked unstoppable since. He has looked like the pre-John Jones, where everybody thought he won that fight, Dominick Reyes.
Yep.
I think with a win like this, he is back in the conversation at the 205 light heavyweight division, because his athleticism, his power, and his size at that division, and he's one of those guys that cracks, and when he hits people, they drop. He's another one of those guys people will get back on board of wanting to watch fight, and I think that he can get it done. Now, he's taking on Ulberg 12-1, ranked just a smidge higher than him, I believe, and this could have dramatic impacts for both of these fighters. So I'm tremendously geeked to watch this fight.
Yeah, I am with you on all points on this, and I think this was a great matchup to put together, and I'm very excited for it. Dominick Reyes, to me, is one of the best stories in the sport right now, right? I mean, a guy that was having just an absolute awful time. I mean, he was one of the saddest stories in the sport, right? Because now, listen, I'll just put it out there. I scored that fight live for John Jones. Close, but I scored it for John Jones. A lot of people didn't know. And when you're talking about a fight that close, that could have swayed the other way, that, I always said after that fight, if you told me you had it for Dominick Reyes, I can't argue with you. Like, it was that close. No robbery to me in either direction. But a lot of people feel like he did get robbed. So you think about what that would have meant, right? I mean, how that would have changed his not only the trajectory of the career, but his contract and financially and all that. And then to follow it up. So to be almost there, to be at the precipice, to have it ripped away from you, and then to have 3 more losses after that, and to have injury, and to have just all the things that he went through. It was sad, man. It was sad. And you knew he was struggling with it, man. And this is such a lonely sport sometimes, and a difficult sport. And he was struggling with it. So to see that this ride that he's back on, this run that he's making to the top of the division again, and you did. You were like, hey, I think you called it, man. You were like, listen, if he keeps up with this, he'll be back in the discussion. And I think at the time, even I was like, all right, getting ahead of yourself a little bit. But he's right there now, and he's in the main event. But as you said, not an easy challenge. Carlos Ulberg, a guy.
Look at his last 3 opponents. Ulberg's last 3 opponents.
I know. And I'm telling you, so when he came into the UFC and he was racking up the wins, I was like, hold on. Because everybody was high on him. Like, he's a good-looking guy. He's well-spoken. He's got an entertaining style. But I was like, hang on. I think we're trying to force-feed this guy. We're looking for a new star a little bit too much. Like, hang tight until he gets to the top of the division. Well, now he's been at the top of the division. And he's continuing to get the results. Jan Blachowicz, Volkan Oezdemir, Alonzo Minifield, key victories for him. So this is another big one here. So this is big. This is huge at the top of the light heavyweight division.
Where
and
is
it's got
Ulberg,
that added storyline.
ranked? Where is he ranked?
he's very much up there at the top right now. Let me double check it to make sure, but there's not a lot.
Number 3. He's
number 3. Yeah,
3v7.
It's huge.
So, we got I don't know where with the win here. Probably not getting one right. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, depends how impressive it is, right? But
you could. I mean, look, it kind of depends on what happens in the rematch with Ankalaev and Pereira, but it never hurts to be kind of on a similar timeline, right? You know what I mean? To only be a week out, that's always good because that means, you're looking to fight around the same time they're looking to fight. So I don't think a title shot is out of line for either man out of this. I mean, you do have Prochazka in there that wants to get back in there. Jan's had a couple losses. Khalil obviously had a lot of popularity. Again, a lot of this is going to determine, is it Pereira on top? Is it Ankalaev? But I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility that this ends up being kind of a de facto number 1 contender fight. So that's why there's so much about this fight that is intriguing. So I loved it when it was matched. It was not a fight that I necessarily was thinking, we got to put this one together. But as soon as they announced it, it was like, yes, this was the fight to make. Well done.
Yeah, and it's like, you want to see this rise in Ulberg continue because he is a fun fighter. But then that human story of Dominick Reyes is like, how, if you're rooting against him, like then you need to re-examine your life. You know what I mean?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, this is the guy you got to pull for. Again, this dude has been through the depths of it, man. And he's talked about it. He's talked about how low he was and how hard it was to get back to where he is. So this is a big fight for him, man. And yeah, I like this. I'm looking forward to this one for sure. Long flight, man. Long way to get to Perth. Perth is crazy because Perth, you leave the United States, Southern California, you fly down to like Sydney, and then you still got like basically New York to LA to get to Perth, right? You still got to fly across the continent. So it is a long way down there. It's a lot of travel. It's disruptive to your sleep schedule and all those things. So he's got a lot on his back that he's got to deal with. But talk about a guy that's dealt with adversity and gone through it. I mean, it's nothing to him. I know he's been excited about it. So enemy territory fight for him. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one 2 weeks out, man. That'll be a good one next weekend.
Answer me one question. How much does the UFC love Junior Tafa?
they give him some opportunities, right? Like, man, come on out there.
And at the top of a card, he's opening main cards or he's on main cards and pay-per-views. He's whatever, and he's 6-4. Like, listen, I understand he's packs a lot of power in his hands and he's got all this, but they love this guy.
They love the Tafa brothers, right? Like, hey, there's something to be said, right? For like a dude that's just like, you're gonna like. This fight's not lasting long. Two dudes are just going to go out and start swinging at each other. That's fun, right? I mean, you got to have some of those. Like, of course, you need people that are on championship trajectories. And again, always the job of all of the matchmakers has always, been told to me from Joe Silva at the very beginning. It's like, my job is not to build champions. My job is to build challengers that make sense to fight the champions, right? Like, I got to get people. So you need people on those trajectories, but you also need people that are just going out there and get people out of their seats and cheering and going crazy and going, this is why I love this sport, man. So, and I think the Tafa brothers, I think they both provide that, man. That you're getting a scrap when they're in there.
Yeah, they love that. They love them boys. And then we have in 3 weeks from now, October 4th, the big one, UFC 320 Ankalaev and Pereira, the rematch, the co-main, Merab, the Machine Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen. And then the people's main event, Yuri Prochazka and Khalil Roundtree. I have no idea what to expect out of that fight.
I don't either. And it's funny because, like I said, I feel like, in kind of the same way that at middleweight, the UFC set it up where, hey, we got a couple of fights here and it's almost like a little mini tournament to see who gets next. I feel like that's what we got here between Perth and then between Prochazka and Roundtree. I think it's like you said, who looks the best, who makes the best statement that night as to who gets next. Existing matchups as well. So that's a big fight as well. That's a fun one. Prochazka and Roundtree, those two dudes. I mean, just completely like dynamic styles. Like, but that it's gonna be fun. Like when that fight was announced, you're like, oh yeah, like I love this one. So cannot wait for that matchup. That'll be big. And like I said,
can Prochazka bring Roundtree into an ugly fight? Can he do it? And if he can, then Roundtree is going to be in trouble. If he can't, Prochazka is going to be in trouble. Yeah, but Prochazka will do everything in his power to do it. Like, he's not going to be scared about wading in.
No, he's going to try to create chaos, right? That's what he thrives in, creating chaos and thriving. Whereas Roundtree, you think it's just, if he can keep things traditional, keep that Thai style, just deliver those massive shots that he's capable, the bombs that he can unload. He's a dangerous dude.
The one question that I do have is Khalil Roundtree actually in looking spectacular against Jamal Hill, he took a little bit of a beating in regards of making it a very boring fight.
Right.
If he makes this a boring fight, I don't want to get into a breakdown too much, but if he makes this a boring fight against Prohaska, like I think those birds are going to be chirping a little bit more. Whereas if he goes against that and tries to make it a little bit more of an exciting fight this time, he's playing right into Yuri's hands. I don't know. The dynamic of that is a little funky.
You are right about that. Two things going for it. I think Khalil is just so mentally strong and so dialed in on what he needs to do to be successful to himself that it doesn't care too much about the opinions of others. I mean, I know everybody. Look, it's hard to tune out all that chatter, right? Everybody says, well, I don't read the headlines, or I don't read the comments, or I don't read social media. Everybody does, and they hear it, and they see the buzz, and they understand what's going on out there. I think Khalil is very mentally strong, and that he is able to tune a lot of that stuff out. So that's one. Two is, can you really make Yuri a boring fight? Is it possible? You know what I mean? Yuri's not going to allow himself to be boring, even if he is. Because I think he's still going to try to be wild no matter what. He's still going to be trying to attack no matter what. So I don't know that Yuri Prohaska is necessarily capable of a boring fight. But you are right about that. It would be interesting, right? Because that wasn't a universally loved performance after that last win. As big as it was, as meaningful as it was. And Khalil was a guy that had all types of public sentiment and hype around him, even coming off a loss, right? I mean, that was the narrative coming out of the loss to Beheader. It's like, yeah, you lost, but what an amazing performance. And oh my gosh, look at what you did. You stood up. I mean, everybody was, hugging him and telling him, this was the guy. And then so you get back in the win column and people are kind of jumping off the bandwagon. So you are right about that. It is intriguing. So we'll see how that one plays out. Love a big fight night in Vegas.
What do you got going on this weekend? Big CFFC grappling card, I hear.
That's it. My man Michael Chiesa will be back with me on the microphone. He is phenomenal at commentating, but especially in grappling, man. I mean, he's great at MMA as well, but he has such a passion for grappling that I just love working alongside him for that one. So looking forward to working with Mike Chiesa, and three very, very good championship matchup at the top of the card. Pat Sabatini is back against Richie Lewis, 170-pound belt on the line there. Pat Sabatini, you talk to anybody.
Pat Sabatini's grappling at 170?
Yeah, he won our title last time out at 170, 145. Yeah. So this is just awesome. This is walk around weight, man. He loves it, right? But he's going against Richie Lewis. So Pat Sabatini, obviously, man, he's had much success in the UFC. He was a former two-time CFFC MMA champion, but his grappling is always what he's best at, and he loves grappling. He's passionate about grappling too. And anybody that trains them will tell you, that dude is the best in the gym. So this is where he can really be free. Obviously, competitive is all hell, but when you're not worried about the striking aspect of it, you can really just you'll see him. He's so much more loose and relaxed. He's really fun to watch grapple. But he's going against Richie Lewis, who Richie Lewis actually just headlined our last CFFC MMA event 3 weeks ago, was victorious there in his debut and says, I want to stay busy. Give me on the grappling mat. So he's turned around challenging for a title 3 weeks later. So 2 headlining events for him. Richie Lewis, New Jersey wrestling legend. He was under 23 world champ, wrestled Division I. So, I mean, it's a really good. Are
leg locks legal in this, or?
Twisting leg locks will not be because of the UFC athlete. So that's the one caveat that the UFC tells us.
And knee bar, and straight ankle, and toe hold, all legal?
Those are all legal. You just can't do the heel hooks.
Wait, is a toe hold? Would you consider a toe hold twisting?
The toe holds, I'll have to clarify on that because we haven't had. No, I tell you what, we weren't allowed to do toe holds either because I remember Brad Bolton was going to beat Clay Guida with a toe hold, but it was illegal, so he had to let it go. He locked it in just for a second, so no toe holds. But you get the straight knee bar, you get the straight ankle locks. But I'm looking forward to this one. Junior Ocasio is back as well. He's our bantamweight champion. He's facing a tough challenge in Esfar Martinez. Junior Ocasio has been our last 3 events. He's won the title. He's already defended it. He's really, really good, and I think he's exactly what UFC BJJ is looking for. UFC BJJ has made it clear they want guys that are offensive, that are attacking, that are always looking to make stuff happen. They want zero stalling whatsoever. They're trying to invest in the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and grappling, and they understand what people want to see. Yes, you as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt can appreciate the technique of a entwined leg lock battle and an impossible guard to pass. But that's not what fans want to see, man. They want to see submissions. They want to see pressing. They want to see people taking chances. Junior Ocasio does that. So I don't know that he'll earn a call up necessarily with a win here, but I think he's awfully close. And he's got the exact kind of style that people are looking for. And then the third title match is Taylor Highshaw against Nicole Matthew, inaugural women's belt at 135 pounds. Taylor Highshaw is the real deal. She's already our flyweight champion. She won a single night tournament. She's a teenager, B team. Absolute, just tremendous athlete, aggressive, great grappling, great wrestling, great jiu-jitsu, all well-rounded. And Nicole Matthew, a very, very talented challenger, is trying to come in and stop the streak that Highshaw is on and claim our 135-pound belt. So 3 championship matchups and then a full lineup on UFC Fight Pass for the main card. And of course, the prelims, as always, onlyfans.com/CFFC MMA. So grappling this weekend is what I've got going on, bro, man. How about you?
I don't know.
A weekend off? A weekend off?
Well, it's not off. I got it like Grizzly. I have Grizzly stuff to do. The Grizzly now. Right. My basketball season is going to start. We're getting into preseason mode, right? So we're getting ready for the start of the season, and training camp for the Grizzlies is only a few weeks away. So a lot of I start really picking up right around now. But then a week later, I'm with you at Four Bears Casino. And I'm really looking forward to that. I know the travel sucks, but once you are there, it is one of the most spectacular places on earth.
It really is, man. It is kind of a pain to get to because no matter what airport you fly to, you've still got like another hour and a half to get to where you need to go. So it's kind of out there in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, that's the flip side of the advantage, right? Is that you're in the middle of nowhere and it's just absolutely gorgeous because it's just, roaming countryside and it's just really beautiful up there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going forward.
When was it? When we were there last June, May?
Yeah.
I took a 3-hour walk that day.
Did you really? Yeah. Man. Like everybody likes to just like down by the river or you cross over the bridge on the other side. I mean, you feel the difference in the air, right? It's just like fresh and clean. And like I said, it's a gorgeous landscape out there. And the venue is really nice as well. Four Bears, man, the actual venue that we're in is as good as any place we do in the country. So we love being there. A couple of title fights on that one as well. We'll talk about that next week, but anxious for you to be out there. Lightweight titles on the line in the main event, and then the middleweight belt. Chris Brown in the middleweight against Guram Gokashvili. Kyle Dawkins, of course, they were going to look to unify that title. Kyle Dawkins got the call to Shanghai, back to UFC. So Chris Brown and Guram Gokashvili now the undisputed title. Jesse Roberts versus Angel Alvarez for the lightweight belt. Jesse Roberts looking to defend. And Jesse's got an impressive record, man. 9-1. He's the champ. A defense here against a tough Angel Alvarez, and he's saying, "Listen, man, give me an opportunity at the highest level. I want to be in the UFC." So good card there. Blaine Richards is back. Bo Samaniego is back as well. Undefeated Hunter Lee.
Big fan of Blaine Richard. Big fan.
Real, that dude loves to fight, man. You know what I mean? And he, man, he had the history with Eric Nolan, and now you see Eric Nolan getting the short notice call up and really put on a great performance there, even in defeat. But it got a lot of buzz, and of course, Blaine sees that, and he's like, "Damn, that could have been me. That should have been me." So he's motivated to come in and have another big performance. And who knows? Maybe him and Eric Nolan can run it back in the UFC one day. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to see. So some great talent up and down the card, man. It's gonna be a fun night at Four Bears.
Before we get going, your Bilal Hasan kid.
Yep.
What's the update with him?
Healing up, obviously, man. He didn't end up needing to get surgery after last time. He got in some very deep ankle locks last time, and there was some
they were heel hooks. They were more than
heel hooks. Heel hooks. Yeah, so there was some real concern on his knee. He was working pretty gingerly after that. So, but he's healing up. He's good. He didn't need surgery, so he was able to rehab everything. He's healing up. I'll be honest with you, man. I was a little surprised he didn't get the call for Dana White's Contender Series. I think Bilal Hasan.
I'm shocked I have not seen him on the roster there yet.
I think he is 100% ready. And I think right now, again, now
Who's
there's
managing
him? Dave Martin with a MAG agency, I believe, it picked up his services. So he's got connections. And so I'm a little bit surprised that he hasn't gotten a call. So right now, to answer your question, short answer, he's good to go. He's healed up. I think he is waiting to get through Contender Series because there are still 5 weeks left and there are short notice call-ups and things happen. The UFC is also coming to Vancouver, which he's from the Washington area. So that he's got like a couple things in play where I think it's like, hey, let's hang tight right now. Let's see if any of these things play out. But I believe that kid is absolutely UFC ready, man. He, not only the skills, obviously you've seen it, man. The skills are there, but the entertainment side of it too, right? Like he's great on the mic. He gets the, he comes out to Michael Jackson wearing sunglasses. Like he gets that that's part of it too. The social media, the interviews, like he gets. So to me, the guy just checks every box, man. So I'm a little bit surprised. So
yeah,
I think we'll know more.
I've reffed him twice now,
yep.
And he is spectacular.
Spectacular, man. So I think we'll wait to see. I think we're going to wait till Contender Series is up and then wait till UFC Vancouver is passed. And if neither one of those pan out, I think at that point, that's probably when you'll hear the latest defense for him.
Roger that. Well, we packed a lot into an hour. We went over UFC Noche. Kelvin Gastelum as the 190-pound world champion. Fighting Nerds 0-3. Amavov cruised. BSD made it look easy. And we got a couple big events coming up in the next 3 weeks. So stay tuned for us. We're going to start breaking those down. John Morgan will be commentating some grappling, and then me and him will be in Four Bears Casino in North Dakota in 2 weeks. With that being said, for John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy the fights.